So guys, pick your favorite. So like everyone has their choice of favorite instant noodle, they can have their choice of favorite smartphone as well. That's the beauty of choice. And tell me, what is your favorite instant noodle in the comment section below and why it is YY. Anyway, to pick one phone from the tens of hundreds of phones under 15,000 rupees as the best one for you would be wrong, which is why at Track and Take English, we believe in a fair fight. No, not this, you idiots, the phones. Alright, it's time to find out the best phone for you under rupees 15,000. Hi, I'm Ashad. You're watching Track and Take English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. First up, let's talk about the display on these three phones. The Realme P1's AMOLED display has the slimmest bezels of all the three phones, and between Moto and Vivo, Vivo has thinner bezels. And reviewers talk about the bezels because we're looking at the display most of the time, and slimmer bezels would mean that you get better real estate and it just looks aesthetically pleasing. Also, since the Realme P1 has an AMOLED display, the blacks are deeper and the colors are richer too. Take a look at the difference between the three. Plus, Realme also has the brighter display, whether it is indoors or outdoors. And between Vivo and Moto, again, Vivo has the brighter display compared to Moto. And you know what? TT's future can be very bright too if you support our work.
Subscribe for Maggie!
Now, if you're wondering if any of these phones have any display glass protection, at least the spec sheets don't reveal anything, but you can try dropping it and seeing if it breaks or not. Now, if you want to play HDR videos on YouTube, it's possible on Realme and Moto. Vivo doesn't even give you that option. But there's one peculiar problem that I noticed with the Moto G64. So when I started playing the HDR video on YouTube, it worked fine. But the moment I tried to change the resolution, the HDR option goes away, vanishes, poof. So overall, if you look at it, Realme has the best display, yes. But between Vivo and Moto, if you don't care much about the HDR video playback, then Vivo has the better display because it's brighter. On budget phones, performance is very important. And the Realme P1 has the best on-paper specs. You get Dimensity 7050, you get LPDDR4X RAM type, and UFS 3.1 storage. In comparison, the Vivo T3X has Snapdragon 6 Gen 1, and the Moto G64 has Dimensity 7025. And both of these phones have LPDDR4X RAM type and UFS 2.2 storage. In our Antutu test, Realme came out on top, Vivo was a close second, and Moto was last, as expected. Also, Realme offers 60 FPS gameplay in BGMI. In comparison, Vivo and Moto offer only 40 FPS. But funnily enough, Vivo's Snapdragon processor is well tuned for Call of Duty, so we actually got 90 FPS gameplay on Call of Duty on Vivo, whereas we got only 60 FPS on Realme and Moto. But the one thing that we noticed after actually playing BGMI on all these three phones for about 24-25 minutes is that Realme got the hottest. Yes, Realme P1's Dimensity 7050 does get hotter than the other two phones. And I didn't expect this from a budget phone. Generally, budget phones don't get really hot, but the Realme P1 does. In fact, this was also proved by the fact that when we ran our Antutu stress test, we actually ran its stress test this time around. When the temperature touches 45 degrees or above, then Antutu switches off the test. That happened with the Realme P1 in our first run. And we ran this test to check out the battery performance. Realme lost the most battery life in the second run compared to Moto and Vivo. 6000 mAh battery inside Motorola does offer better battery life. Vivo comes in second, and of course, Realme comes in last. But when it comes to charging speeds, Vivo and Realme are faster. Of course, Realme is the fastest with the smaller 5000 mAh battery and 45 watt charging speed support, whereas Vivo has 6000 mAh battery and 44 watt, where Moto has 6000 mAh and 33 watt. So to clear that confusion, overall when you look at it, Vivo has the best balance of performance and battery life. And between Realme and Moto, Moto has better battery life, Realme has better performance. I'm sure that this must have come as a surprise to you because we actually tested the product and Realme has some performance issues right now. Now this phone right here, yes, the Moto G64 is the best for mobile data and calling performance among these three phones. It has the most number of 5G bands, yes, but when we did the calling test, the call quality through the earpiece was of better quality compared to Vivo and Realme. Of course, Vivo and Realme are good too, but Motorola is just better. It's very important that we don't disregard the importance of the word phone in smartphone. But I'm disappointed with Motorola about one thing, and that is the fact that the company only promises 1 year of software updates. Both Realme and Vivo give you 2 years of software update promise. That said, I prefer the software experience on Motorola because it's a more premium experience and you get a lot of useful features too. For example, you get Moto Gestures, Moto Hub, Moto Secure, Family Space 2.0, ThinkShield protection, and a lot more. Now, unlike more expensive Motorola phones, the G64 definitely has a few pre-installed bloatware apps, and there are a couple of folder recommendations recommendations for shopping and entertainment, both of which can be switched off, and apart from that, you can also uninstall the bloatware apps. Now, you can also uninstall the bloatware apps on Realme's Realme UI and Vivo's FunTouch OS, but the software experience is not as premium as Motorola's. Apart from the bloatware apps, you also get a lot of App Store notifications. There are some dark patterns when you set up the phone, and there is that glance lock screen wallpaper as well. Plus, Vivo has hot apps and hot games on by default. Of course, you can switch it off, but it's there. Essentially, if you're not buying this phone for yourself and gifting it to a family member like your parents or your grandparents, then using Motorola is easier because you just need to uninstall the apps and switch off the shopping and entertainment recommendations, and you get a clean UI experience. But with Realme and Vivo, that effort is double. Yes, you can make it, but it's double the effort. So that's a problem. And here's the final blow from Motorola. G64 has animations. Vivo and Realme do not. Only if Motorola had made at least 2 years of software update promise. That would have been better. Alright, now let's talk about the cameras. And when you look at the setup, Motorola is very impressive. You get a primary camera, you get an ultra wide with autofocus for macro, and you get a selfie camera. On the other two, you get a primary camera and a secondary camera, which is pointless, and a selfie camera on the front. Anyway, what matters here at Track and Take English is how these cameras perform in real life. So let's take a look at the tests. First things first, the Moto G64 has ultra wide and macro, so it just wins in versatility and more shooting options. But the primary camera on the Realme P1 is sharper and it offers more details as well. And the second best when it comes to detailed rendition is Moto and then Vivo. Vivo's camera performance actually was disappointing. Even the color rendition is closer to accurate on P1, followed by Moto and then Vivo. However, compared to Moto and Realme, Vivo does better HDR for sure. It captures a more natural scene out here compared to the over-sharpened and color-boosted HDR samples of Moto and Realme. But the Realme P1 pulls back yet another win with fantastic human skin tones, followed by Vivo and then Moto. Even the portraits on Realme look more natural. In fact, the selfies are the best on Realme P1 too, whether it is daylight or low light. As for video recording, you can do it at 4K 30 FPS on Realme and Vivo. Moto can only do 1080p 60 FPS. But at 4K, when shooting with Realme and Vivo, you won't get EIS, you get EIS at 1080p 30 FPS. Now let's make things simple. If you want one phone for best camera performance with the one very good primary camera, then the Realme P1 would win. But if you want a more versatile camera setup, then Moto G64 would be better. Now, I left the design for the end because generally it's very subjective, right? But I can give you my preference, and I like the minimal approach of the Motorola G64. You know, there are these patterns on the Realme P1 and the Vivo T3X that is a little too flashy for my taste. Now, the Moto G64 is a smaller phone of the three options, but it's also comfortable to hold in use primarily because of the curved rear that you get. Plus, it also feels premium because Motorola uses PMMA in the construction, which is a slightly more premium material than the polycarbonate, the regular plastic that's used by Realme P1 and the Vivo T3X. But what I like about the Vivo T3X in specific is the fact that the phone is only 8mm thick despite using a large 6000 mAh battery. So engineering wise, I think Vivo's done a better job. Also, the T3X has IP64 rating compared to IP54 on the Realme P1 and IP52 on the G64. So I think with respect to engineering and build quality overall, if you're not looking at the design per se, then the Vivo T3X wins, but the G64 is also pretty good, and the Realme P1 would be the last in my pick. So let me put this out there. The Realme P1 is for those who want the best display and the best camera performance. Now, I expected the overall performance to be the best as well, but at the moment, there are heating issues. And because of that, there are issues with the battery life as well, until an OTA update is released to fix it. And until then, my choice for the best performing phone in this price class would be the Vivo T3X. Yes, because in general usage, the performance difference between the Vivo T3X and the Realme P1 is not that much if you ask me. And the T3X's battery life is definitely better. Now, I'd pick the Motorola G64 for anyone who wants a very premium software experience and the best battery life among these three phones. And of course, it also has the more versatile camera setup, while it's not the best camera setup in terms of performance. As a matter of fact, I have myself picked out a lot of Motorola phones for my family members in the recent past because I find it very easy to sort of give it to them and, they can directly use it without me having to worry about ads and recommendations. So the moral of the story is there is no one best phone under rupees 15,000 for everybody, which is why we make the list of best phones under rupees 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 and so on and so forth. You know it. Alright, so see you folks in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe. Aditya, Messi, मैं यहाँ पे रख दूँ. चलो, phones के लिए.